and welcome to Affected, a podcast from Meet. For those of you who don't know Meet, we are a global life sciences talent provider. We've been connecting the industry for over a decade, and now we want to share some of our insights and experiences with you. We'll be hosting monthly episodes, sharing thoughts from our leaders and industry professionals about job hunting and hiring in life sciences, as well as giving our network a platform to share their own experiences of building successful careers in an industry that affects us all.
Hey guys, and welcome back to Affected. On episode 7 today, we're talking about employer branding and personal branding. I'm joined by my day one work bestie, started at the same time, Emily Davis, who is our
Senior content writer. Oh yeah.
What does that mean? What do you do?
I write all of our external comms, which cover life sciences insights, recruitment trends, candidate stories, client successes, basically anything that goes on in the world of life sciences. And they cover loads of different formats, from long form white papers to short form to middle ground blogs.
Everything. You write everything.
Yeah.
If it's written and it's come from me, Emily's written it. And we're also joined by the man, the myth, the legend himself, Ryan Tanner. Ryan is like he's like Moby Dick for me. The amount of times I've tried to get this man on camera and it's just never happened. We finally managed to pin him down.
I'm here at last.
Can you tell the guys a little bit about yourself? How long you've been here? Your sort of journey into recruitment and
Yeah,
so
so obviously I'm Ryan. I'm division manager here at Meet. I've been with Meet now since the start of 2023. I work within our partnerships division. Now, my team work across the US and Europe on predominantly our RPO, larger client base business and our MSP business. I've been in recruitment now a number of years, after leaving the Most Trade after 9 years, and then been in life science recruitment for a few years now.
I didn't realise you were in the motor trade.
Yeah.
What was it you did?
I was sales manager at Audi for 7 years.
I never knew that.
Yeah, that's fair.
Before I went into recruitment.
Audi's one of those German car brands I can't get behind. I don't know why. I was always
It's
like
easy to work for it.
Yeah, I can
to believe in it.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
I do like the R8 though. That's
The
nice
R8's nice, but the TTRS drives a lot nicer.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
See, now I feel like I'm here to sold the car. So we're talking about personal branding and employer branding today, and sort of why the perception of your wider communities is so important for you as a business or as an individual. So I'd just like to start off with, what is the importance of having an external voice? You know, how does it contribute to your overall success?
I think having an external voice kind of cements where you are in the industry, rather than just what you do on the day-to-day. It's kind of like a broader perspective of like what you stand for, like whether that's the people you champion, and I suppose that's probably a key factor of it, if that it's more to do like with the people than like the business aspect.
Yeah.
I would say.
Yeah, and I think as well it's creating a bit more of a social community for that business. It's very easy to just be very transactional with your customer base or your future prospects, but I think by having a voice that's talking to your fans, I guess, and your customer database, it helps build that longer term loyalty, but also showcases that you are people within the business and that your business isn't just solely focused on the end result, and that it's wanting to add value, I guess, is why I think it's quite important.
Yeah, I think that's so important, especially sort of generating what your clientele's perception of you is. It's so easy to like forget that within businesses there are human beings
Sure.
who work and obviously like all pulling towards one goal, sort of as a unit. I mean, we talk about it a lot here at Meet. Sort of a lot of our communications buying into our purpose, which is life sciences affects us all. And I feel sort of without having that external voice, it's incredibly difficult to really understand who we are as a business.
Yeah.
I think it does really lend itself to like the authenticity of a brand, and I think that is one thing that we do really well at Meet, if I say so myself.
It's quite difficult to talk about that, isn't it? When we're the ones who are sort of like dealing with that.
Yeah.
But I think getting like everyone in the life sciences community involved with what we're doing, even if they're not necessarily like looking for a job or hiring, I think because we talk a lot about the industry in general and what's going on, it puts us like at the forefront in the life sciences recruitment space as like industry leaders who really like know the industry, not just we know how to fill a job.
Yeah, and it's value adding, isn't it? You know, you don't want them just to be, you don't want your community to just know you by your core purpose. You know, you want them to know how you can add value to them, and bringing that whole community together, I think, helps that purpose-driven mentality that most people do have in the life sciences space in terms of that end goal and that end purpose.
I think community is such an important word there, especially if you sort of look at companies who work on a global scale. Sometimes it can be really easy to feel very fragmented, sort of, you know, individual business to individual business. What do you think sort of, what do you think about that, and sort of like trying to bring together like your global business into one sort of homogenous sort of place?
Yeah, I mean, I think it works twofold. I think from a global perspective, yeah, it's great to have that global presence and that global community that you're bringing together, but I also think from a local affiliate perspective, it's quite important that those that you're dealing with maybe transactionally or more closer on a day-to-day basis, I think it's important for them to have that local presence and community in partnership with then the global presence. You know, something that we do here at Meet, you know, for example, we'll do a lot within isolation in our different offices, but then we all have that same purpose, and that overall objective is the same. So I think it's that person that you're dealing with in the local perspective has that combination approach of local affiliation as well as that global presence in that community.
Yeah, I think also as well, the way like our community adds value to us, I think it's also us adding value to them.
Sure.
In the fact if they want to expand, it's like knowing that we've got connections like in America or across Europe that we can connect them with in their teams on that side of the world, and kind of make it like a whole circle approach for us and for them.
Drilling down a little bit deeper into sort of what good external voices sound like, what do you think are the key elements that really contribute to a personal brand, and how would you say they differ from sort of like the corporate branding that you can put out there?
I think the key thing, which we, like I just mentioned, is like the corporate is very much like the logo, and I think as well like your vision and purpose is mostly corporate. It can lend itself more to like the personal side of things, especially in life sciences, but I think it is definitely more corporate. I think the more personal side of it is like the voices in that and the people within that, and not just hiding behind a logo, but actually having people who can like back you, but also like their stories, like their individual stories that contribute to the overall success.
Yeah, I think you're right there with this. With the stories, I think it's people trust the people to begin with before they will trust the brand. And I think if you haven't got the people that are building that presence, whether it be through branding, social media, and things like that, it's really hard to then gain that community as a corporate business. So I think it's certainly from a personal branding perspective, adding that personal human touch, as I call it, to that community is what will then achieve the business's end goal of obviously creating a larger corporate community, for sure.
I think you're sort of great at that. You're one of the people within our business who sort of, which is essentially the reason you got dragged onto this, to be fair.
I tried to.
It's sort of building that personal brand. I mean, what would you say to some of our clients or companies out there? Sort of, what would you say to them to sort of inspire or get a few of their guys to maybe jump on that bandwagon, sort of talk about their personal stories and how that relates?
Yeah, good question. I think the reason that I'm so prominent on it is because, you know, I work across the US and Europe, and in order for me to go out to, depending on which client my team are working with on their specific needs, it's really important that when we go out, and whether it be from our perspective, i.e. approaching a client or a candidate, or whether out in the life sciences marketplace, I don't know, you could be approaching a healthcare practitioner or an end result, it's really important that if that person wants to understand who you are, your presence is the quickest way for them to understand, is this person trustworthy? Are they creating value for me? Is this person real? And I think certainly from a branding perspective that I've found is that I can, in my community that I have, will instantly know that I'm in this space, I know what I'm talking about. It helps build that trust a lot quicker than perhaps if you're not out there with your branding or your personal presence. And likewise, there's that feeling that you want to be able to feel the reward of genuinely adding value to that community, which is why I think certainly from a personal branding perspective it is absolutely key, and that then helps people buy into you, and then naturally they'll buy into your business because you're representing that.
I think that's a major thing that I've seen as well, is I don't really post myself.
Sure.
But I've had loads of people from the life sciences community reach out to me rather than meet, and I think it's because that's my face rather than like the logo.
Yeah.
And obviously they see that I write that stuff, so if they want like something specific to be spoken about or like reported on, it's like I'll get personal messages from people rather than me getting those messages. And then I think if you look at it from a personal branding perspective for people like in the business or for like clients or candidates, I always think of like, okay, how you need to basically sell it to them is what they can get out of it rather than why you're doing it.
Yeah.
If
That is the exact result you want. You want people coming to you. From a sales perspective, you want leads coming into you based on your capabilities and your presence.
Yeah.
That's the end result you want, certainly from a sales perspective. That's for sure.
I think that's one thing that sort of our old managers used to tell us was our individual networks combined are so much bigger than the business's network, and I think like just being able to utilize that such a huge pool of resources when you really think about it.
Yeah, and it's actually really like, from our perspective, I suppose, like, and probably yours as well, like really validating.
Yeah.
When people like come to you because of your expertise.
The sense
in
of
that
achievement
field.
is great. You think,
like,
wow, I'm doing something
it's
here.
so much better than like, even if someone in the office is like, well done, Em, I'm like, yeah, thanks. But if like someone who's like working on that day in, day out is like, gives me some sort of feedback on something, I'm like, wow, like, I've really done that.
Yeah, done something good. Yeah, for sure.
We work in an incredibly sort of exciting space. Life sciences, sort of, prior to joining me, it wasn't ever something I thought about, but now I'm here, you realise how exciting it is. And one of the things that's so exciting about it is it's rapidly changing. I feel that's sort of kind of indicative of the world in general at the moment. Why do you think it's so important for businesses to stay up to date on current trends when things are changing so rapidly out there?
I think for us, for like life sciences specifically, is because that is changing so frequently and it is affecting literally the whole world. You can't not, if you want to be at the top of your game, you can't not keep up with that. Otherwise you are just going to fall behind because it's changing every single day.
Yeah, I think I think it's spot on. It's a kind of a non-negotiable, I guess. You can if you're not keeping up to date, and it is literally day by day, whether it's a latest biotech coming up with a funding round or a pharma taking a new drug to market. If you're not up to date with it so regularly, you can get left behind in this market so quickly, which is a really great place to be, because it just goes to show that how exciting the life sciences market is, that it is so fast moving that you cannot afford to get left behind. It's much better to be in that type of space, and obviously that's going to contribute to the global better health and things like that. So it's definitely for sure the right way to be.
I think also from like a recruitment perspective, if you are literally recruiting for those roles, you need to know exactly what's going on in that world.
Yeah. And that's well because people put a lot of trust in us, and likewise if you're, a pharmaceutical business or a biotech, you're going to have a lot of clients that are putting that trust into you. If you're not up to date, you're going to lose that trust so quickly, which is so important.
And that's not necessarily sort of like speaking about specific size there. If you look at the macro scale of things, sort of the fluctuation of the economy and the bigger scale pictures, they also have massive implications onto sort of what we do as a recruitment company, as a staffing agency, and that also has effect on our clients, whether it's pharmaceuticals, startups, biotechs. That's all going to play a part in what their mission statement is and how they can approach what they're doing. And as a brand, we can sort of that helps us makes informed decisions within the business. Do you guys have anything to say on that at all?
Yeah, I think it's actually really common for businesses to shy away from making opinions on things for the reason that they think they're going to lose business by doing so. But I think by staying informed on things, it only strengthens your standing within your space.
Yeah.
And that is one thing that I don't think we've ever got that really wrong, and I think it's because we never go too political on it, but we know our clients and we know the world, and so I think it's only right to make opinions, like to be outward with your opinions on things, and we've definitely had like bite back now and then. But I also think that's kind of like part and parcel of wanting our community involved in everything that we do, is that not everyone's always going to agree on things, but it's never to the point where it would affect the business, if that makes sense.
I mean, one of your first pieces at the company was a piece on Roe versus Wade.
Yeah.
Right, and that was sort of, I remember when we were talking about that way back, it felt like sort of like a very contentious is probably the wrong word, but like it was in, you know,
it was
this,
scary.
Yeah.
It was scary. It was like the very first thing that I did for me, but it was like what was happening at that time, and considering we're like a woman-led company with 2 offices in America, is this doesn't just affect us at the company, it's affecting like the whole world, and we're working in an industry that is very aligned with what's going on there. And also like when it comes down to things like that, it's kind of just like a human right rather than like an opinion.
I think it's fine as long as those things align with your values.
Exactly.
And they're not performative actions per se.
But even that was like a heavily researched piece, and I think that's what we can always fall back on, is that we always really research things, whether that's externally or like internally with our community. We'll always have data to back up what we're saying. So even with that piece, I was like very conscious of not making it political, but making it science-led, and like what's going on and how are we going to move forward from this.
Yeah, and I think that talks to that piece earlier around that if you're keeping up to date with everything that's going on in your marketplace, keeping yourself well informed, then naturally you can be brave enough to make that informed choice, whether it's as an opinion or a piece of branding. By being up to date and keeping that research topic alive every day, you can be brave enough to add value.
I think that's the thing as well of being so informed by everything, is that then if people do have a difference of opinion, it's just being open to having those conversations, but also knowing not just where you stand on it, but also having those facts to back it up. So it's not like we're just saying things for the sake of saying it, or for it to be like clickbaity and like get people to the website. It's like, no, we actually really passionately care about this, and we've done our reading and our research and our reach out to be like, this is a well-rounded argument that we have.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think it's great that we can sort of facilitate that discussion, sort of, be a platform for people to talk about these harder to talk about issues, because they need to be discussed. And I feel sort of, because we have such a prominent voice within that place, that being able to get people to talk about those things is so important.
I think even like when we look at like the white paper, which was like women in leadership, we got so many responses to that in such a short period of time that we actually had to like stop it early because we were just like overwhelmed with responses. And that's when we were like, wait, this is a really important thing that loads of people want to talk about, but they also want to talk about their experiences. And I think if we work with these people so closely, it's kind of our duty to give them that platform to talk about what's happening in the industry that we're not privy to day to day, but we obviously know it's happening, and then also helping change that moving forward.
How do you deal with that bite back? How do you deal with sort of the maybe the negative side of sort of putting yourself out there?
I think that's why I don't like to post personally. And I do sometimes hide behind the logo. But I think a lot of the time is you've just got to kind of take the personal out of it. And that was one thing with the white paper, was that it was so like navel gazing, if that's the right word, of like I had to really look inward and also so many instances I was like, whoa, like this has happened to me before, or like this does happen. But then it becomes so much bigger than just like your personal experience. And so, for example, with the white paper, there was obviously people who didn't care, or who had like opposing opinions to like what's happening, but then at the end of the day, like the facts and figures are there, and the people who do want to talk about it, even if they don't agree but want to have a discussion, that is so much bigger than the people who just have like negative things to say without like real backing for their argument, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'd agree there.
I think one of the things that we take very seriously is this idea of trying to sort of position ourselves as maybe like a thought leader, and maybe from a sort of an employee standpoint, sort of being like an expert in your market. I know when I try and drag some of you other guys on camera, it's often to talk about the markets they work in, and hearing the passion and the knowledge they speak about within their individual markets is amazing. So how do you feel that sort of can help build a relationship and sort of like a reputation within, you know, individual markets and then our wider community?
Yeah, I mean, I think what's key is that every single person, certainly from our perspective in our core markets, our network is going to be vastly built of those that are in that network. And I think it's, you know, it talks to what we were talking about earlier about how you build that global brand starting from the ground up with the individuals. If you think you've got 100, 150 individuals that are all in said markets, their connections, their branding, their community are all going to be focused predominantly on their market. When you bring all that together in a corporate branding strategy, that then is going to be a far, you know, like we said earlier, it's a far greater pool of community. But it allows that individual to tailor the value add piece to their community based on what their community are going to want to hear. From a corporate branding perspective, that person's market or that person's community may not necessarily get value from what we decide or what your business decides to push out as their branding. But when that gets tailored to how that individual cog of network is getting value add to them, that will then naturally just build into that overarching corporate branding and the overall, you know, global presence, I guess.
I think especially for the sales guys, like in their markets, you can't help but get really involved in it because it is so fascinating, like the things people are working on. But I think just from like our perspective and like the community in general, I think a lot of the time, which we see a lot in like our marketing mailers and things like that, which are not sales led at all, it's more just like information of what's happening at the moment in life sciences. And I think loads of people say they work in like oncology, they know everything that's happening in oncology, but they might want to learn about what's happening in gene therapy. And that's kind of the feedback we get from those marketer mailers, is that they just want to know what's happening in life sciences. That may not necessarily be their market, and I think we do a good job of that internally as well as externally for like our clients and candidates, is that internally we like promote what's happening in each market.
Do you ever think there's an opportunity for sort of collaboration or partnerships by being a thought leader, by talking well about the areas we work in? There's an opportunity there for others to reach out and sort of maybe try and get involved in what we do and sort of pick our brains in regards to those kinds of things?
I think so, definitely. I think it kind of works two ways. One, on the client side, if they've got something they want to talk about and they trust us as being, of having like authority with our voice in the industry, of like us like collaborating to talk about that, so it would feel maybe more authentic in a way rather than like a press release. It could be like a real conversation of everything that's happening in their work and in their world, and even like the failures as well as the successes. And then I think from our point of view, we always want people from the industry involved. That's like one thing I think from the beginning. It only kind of helps us learn even more, and it's more fun and more interesting to actually speak to a human being than to like read articles and watch videos.
It feels a lot more real, doesn't it, when you're getting that information from, you know, it could be a leader in a pharmaceutical business or it could be a leader from here at Meet. You know, we're in a really fortunate position where we are hearing real life stories every single day that we can then leverage that to add value to the wider community. You know, so someone could be in oncology, but you could be speaking to someone about an immunology study or something like that, and that value that could genuinely build to our, you know, community who may not necessarily be in that day to day. I think certainly from us at Meet, we're in a very fortunate position where we can add tremendous value to both a candidate or an employee to a leader within a client business, for sure.
I think that's something that's really good to emphasize, is it's very much a two-way street.
Yeah.
As much as we can
Yeah.
help inform and sort of educate, being able to like building that platform where people can discuss and sort of know who you are in terms of thought leadership and through your brand, that information coming back the other way
Yeah.
is just as important, just
Yeah,
as
for
vital.
sure.
And you know, you feed back into the industry,
Yeah.
and it becomes
Yeah.
like a self-fulfilling
Yeah.
prophecy, doesn't it?
Yeah.
A cycle.
But it's also like, again, going back to like our first point of like putting the people in front of the work and like connecting that to actual humans rather than it being like a press release of
Yeah.
like this company's just done this, or like this has just got approved by the FDA, or whatever it may be. Is like, no, I actually worked on that, and
Yeah.
this is where we got to, and this is how we did it. And I think that, again, yeah, helps both clients and candidates if like they're looking for new opportunities, or they're just interested in a certain field, or are like trying to see what options they've got moving forward. Is like, yeah, bringing that whole thing together. It's just like that community thing, I think, that we always talk about.
Yeah.
Awesome. As we wrap up here, I just want to sort of give our audience sort of maybe some actionable steps that can like enhance their brand building efforts.
I mean, I guess for me, the starting blocks are really around just utilising what you do on a daily basis to create that into your personal branding. You know, whether you're, you know, say whether you're in a pharmaceutical business, whether you're in the lab, or whether you're in here like what we do, the best content that you can create for your branding is what you are doing and talking about on a day-to-day basis, and then leverage your knowledge and the information that you're gathering every day to then convert into your branding. That's the easiest, the quickest way for me, certainly from experience, and what I would advise anyone is just utilize what you already know. Don't try and recreate the wheel or try and go out there and find something crazy to do. Just utilize what you've got there in front of you, and that'll soon just funnel away, and then suddenly you'll get that self-fulfilling prophecy where everyone's coming to you with information, and it just grows and grows and grows from there.
It's just about being authentic, right?
Yeah.
Just sort of
Being real.
Be you. Be sort of,
Yeah.
if you're in that space, talk about the amazing things that you're doing and that you're seeing. You can't
sure.
really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's exactly what I was going to say as well. And instead of just jumping on a trend for the sake of it being a trend and working for some people, is really like hashing out what your mission and your values and what you want to do as a business. And once you've got that like super tight, then it will all kind of lean into itself, and then that's when the authenticity comes through.
Yeah.
And then that's when you can get like people on board to talk about it and give testimonials or case studies or spotlights, whatever it may be, that will boost that brand as well.
Yeah.
In a really authentic way, but that all loops together. But I think the starting point is really nailing what you want your mission to be and how your work lends itself to that.
Yeah, I think you're right there. I think you need to really understand what you want to achieve out of it, because there's no point just going out and just building a brand for the sake of building your brand, whether that's a business or your personal. You really need to understand what you want to get from it, because individuals within your business will want to have a different end result. Whether you're a researcher just trying to expand your community around other researchers, or you're a salesperson in a business that needs to win new leads or inbound opportunities, you really need to understand what you want to get out of it to then understand how you go and get that. And I think you got it right there.
And I think if you look at any business, like, doesn't have to be in life sciences, doesn't have to be in recruitment, and you think of why you love their brand or why it like resonates with you, it will be because it's authentic and because their values align with yours, and they're really like, you don't even have to see them like written down. They're just like very obvious in what they
You know
want
what
to
they
do.
stand for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I think my final thing is sort of, we say it all the time. We tell our new starters, but people buy from people.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
People also buy in to people.
Yeah.
And I feel like use the great people who work for your company. Let them tell their stories. Don't be afraid of that, and sort of let them be the flag bearers for your values, for your company.
Yeah.
And you'll see the benefits massively, I think, from that.
Yeah. Good.
I'd like to thank you guys for coming on, especially Ryan. Again, I feel like mate, it's been
You
incredible.
are more than welcome.
I feel like I did my best to not derail the podcast right at the start and just talk about cars for 30 minutes. yeah, that would have Anton would have loved it. To be fair,
Yeah,
Anton
but
would have-
only Anton.
Yeah.
No one else.
What are the rest of your days looking like?
Yeah, I've got a lot going on this afternoon. Yeah, lots of client meetings today. Very client-focused day today, which is
Yeah.
good. It's always good.
What about you, Ems?
I've got updates from gene therapy going out. The UK is the first country in the world to approve a CRISPR gene editing therapy for
Wow.
patients.
How cool is that?
You can find out more about that in next week's edition of The Pulse.
I'll link it below.
I just want to say thank you so much, guys. It's always a pleasure to get down and sort of just chat about your thought leaders in your own individual industry. So it's awesome. And tune in next month where we'll have some more fantastic insight. And yeah, thanks for listening. Bye.
Ciao.